All right, we're in Chapter 9 on Objective 9.2, accounting for bonds payable, notes payable, and interest. We're really just going to focus on the bonds. All right, now a bond it's really, at its core, it's just a debt. So sometimes people get confused with bonds. They think there's something that's not a debt about it, but it is a debt. It has interest payments plus principal. What makes a bond unique is that it can be traded on a public capital market exchange. So whereas a loan payable or note payable is a borrowing from, let's say, a bank, a bond is invested in by hundreds or possibly thousands of different individuals and investment companies, pension funds, etc. So it is traded on an exchange, and an investor can subsequently sell their bond to someone else. So um, a bond may be $10 million, but it's broken down into 1,000 different pieces. Okay, because they trade in components or parts, subparts of the debt. Now, you may hear of different types of bonds like revenue bonds or sinking fund bonds. Um, and the bonds names often just describe the cash flows, how the cash is received or paid, or where the cash comes from. We're just going to focus on one type of bond. It's called a debenture bond. So a debenture bond is a bond that's uh, backed by just the credit of the company. All right. And in the bond market, the bonds usually just have two interest payments per year, and then the entire principal due at maturity. So two interest payments per year, entire principal due at maturity. So it's interest only, and at the very end pays the full face value. I will give you a heads up. You may get a problem with just an annual interest payment. Um, and textbooks sometimes do that to make the math a little easier. But if a problem doesn't tell you how many payments per year, but it tells you that it's a corporate bond, you should assume two payments per year. Okay, so here's a little, sometimes they call them tombstones, but it's a little uh, information about a debenture bond class A 20X1 for this company, Nabali Incorporated. The principal amount, um, actually we should say face value for a bond, is 100,000. That's the amount that will be paid at maturity. The coupon rate is 6%. Let me tell you, it can also be called coupon rate, could also be called stated rate, or contractual rate. All right, you have to know all those names. This rate is used to calculate interest payments. All right, it's not the rate you're going to use for discounting. We'll get more than that in a little bit. Payments per year, there's a July one and a January one. With a bond, payments are always in arrears, which means the interest payments are going to be ordinary annuities. Here's the issuance date and the maturity date. So let's see, all of 2001, 2002, all of 2003. So it's a 3-year bond. All right. The number of interest payments is going to be 6 interest payments, and the payment amount is the face value times the interest rate. Oops, let me be a little careful with that, because we're going to use a market rate for discounting, not just the interest rate, times the coupon rate divided by number of payments per year. Okay, and in this case, 100,000 times 6% divided by 2. There's going to be 6 payments of 3,000, plus at the end you'll get the 100,000 back. So moving right along with this bond, what's an important thing to do is present value. because the present value will tell you how much the market is willing to pay for this bond. Okay, so the number of interest payments, we did this on the prior slide, 6 payments. Each payment is $3,000. I guess we can write out the timeline just to be clear about it. 0, 1, 2. So the timeline is 3,000, 3,000, 3,000, 3,000, 3,000, 3,000, and then also 100,000. Why do we keep it separate? Because we're going to present value the annuity, ordinary annuity, and we're going to present value the lump sum and add them together. So the present value of the bond equals 3,000 times the present value of an annuity factor, ordinary annuity, 8%, 6 periods, and then the face value times the present value of a lump sum factor, 8% divided by 2, which is 4%, and still 6 periods. So use the same interest rate and periods for both the lump sum and the bond, but the factor will be different, right? You're going to get the annuity factor, ordinary annuity factor, off the ordinary annuity table. So present value annuity factor for ordinary annuity, and then you're going to get the present value of a lump sum of $1 off of the present value of a lump sum of $1 table. You put it all together, and it's 94,758. All right, does this make sense? The coupon rate is accruing at 6%, but you're discounting at 8% annually, 4% per period. Yes, it makes sense. 94,758 less than 100,000 is okay. Why is that? Well, what happens with a bond, it pays $3,000 every 6 months. It keeps the payments the same to whoever buys the bond. That's so that it can be traded on a market. So if you buy a bond or I buy a bond, we all know what payments we're going to get. It's the payments in the timeline. However, if they were able to adjust the coupon rate to the market rate, how much would it have paid? The market rate is 8% or 4% every 6 months. It would have paid $4,000, but they can't change the interest payment. So what do? You lower the price so that it effectively yields 8% is the yield. This is what's called the yield, or yield to maturity. Okay, which is the same as the market rate. All right. So with bonds, we don't adjust interest payments. We adjust the price so that it effectively yields the market rate. And when bond rates go down, the prices go up. And when rates go up, as they did in this case, the price goes down. And this is the discount, okay? Because 94,758 is less than the face value. Whenever the price is less than the face value, it's a discount. All right, so how do we do the bond issuance? 94,758, we're issuing the bond to get cash, so we're receiving the cash. Bonds payable always holds the face value. Face value. Always holds the face value. Here it is, face value. Bonds payable, liability account, credit, the face value of 100,000. Principal, face value, face value. Goes there. Keep it simple. You get your cash, credit your bonds payable. Now at that point you could have plugged your discount on bonds payable. The other way to do it is you just 100,000, 94,758 and 5242 is your discount. All right, if you plugged in the journal entry, you did the same thing. So these two together, the discount and the bonds payable, so $100,000 credit net of the debit of 5242, That is the carrying value. Equals 94,758. On the date of issuance. It will change subsequently to that. We'll get to that in a second. All right. So carrying value equals bonds payable minus a discount if one. You could also have a premium case. All right. And in the discount case, all of this is less than the face value. All right, probably a little bit messy way to say it, but because in this case, carrying value is less than face value. Let me just pull a little space there. All right, so discount because carrying value is less than face value, but in general, the definition of carrying value is bonds payable minus discount plus premiums. Okay, so that's intro to a discount bond. Let's take a little break, and I think in the next one, we're going to do the premium issuance.